crossed over into Oklahoma and headed west. Well, good morning, YouTube. Yesterday it was almost 80 here. I'm just north of Oklahoma City, and today I think it's like 39. So I've decided I'm going to go check out the Oklahoma Territorial Museum and do a little inside stuff today. So let's go inside and take a look. So Oklahoma was originally considered Indian territory, and Andrew Jackson in the 1820s moved a lot of tribes here. Even before that, there were tribes moving in. After the Civil War, many more tribes moved in. To get an idea of where all the tribes came from that moved here, this map is pretty nice. What I come from is up Seneca territory. We visited the longhouse up there in Ganagadan. I didn't realize that Senecas were forced to come down here, but because we all have heard about the Cherokee and the Seminole and the Chickasaw, all moving in here. Of course, the Comanches, the Cheyenne, we all know that they moved in here, but I just never realized how many other tribes from everywhere else were forced to come down here. This map sort of gives you an idea of how this was all divided up by the major tribes in the areas. And I didn't realize that the panhandle up here was controlled in Mexico, because it's part of Texas, and then ceded to the United States, became part of Oklahoma. That's why there's the panhandle there, instead of Texas going all the way up. So I'm sure everybody's seen, the scenes of the land rush where the Indian lands were opened up to settlers. It was actually the unassigned lands. But that happened at noon on April 22nd, 1889. And let's take a look at some of the things that were actually carried by some of those people. So no one family would have carried all of this. A lot of families sold off everything they had, except for a horse and a buggy, and to run in and claim their section of land. Of course, the fact that the land run was open to all meant that former slaves and African Americans had an equal opportunity to come in and get their 160 acres, which is a section. So the farmers that came here were thinking 160 acres is a huge farm, which in the upper Midwest it would be. The soil here was a harder clay and harder to work, and actually was hard to support a family on 160 acres. But one of the things you had to do was build a home. Some of them were dugouts, dug into hillsides, some sod houses. One guy built this actual house. It's 8 feet by 11 feet. Got a sleeping loft on the top. He lived in that as a bachelor for 9 years. Some places, you needed water. Some places you could have a stream or something like that, or near a river. If you didn't, then you had to dig a well. Some of them were like 20 feet. If they had to go deeper than that, they could drill a well, which cost money, and put up a windmill like this one here. And they were actually developed here on the Great Plains to pump the water up. Of course, one crop that could bring in a lot was cotton, and this is the Guthrie Cotton Market. Guthrie, where this is located, is actually the territorial capital of Oklahoma. Then there's a strange story of Elmer McCurdy. He, in 1911, October 4th, they flagged him and his partner flagged on a train and to steal what they thought there was going to be $400,000 on it. There wasn't. They got away with $46 and a couple bottles of whiskey. They were tracked down and shot, or McCurdy died. They gave his body to a funeral home, and where he was embalmed, and the funeral director had him leaning in a corner as a curiosity. But in 1916, two men showed up claiming to be his brother and taking him home, but they actually were his representatives of the Great Patterson shows, and McCurdy began a 60-year career as a sideshow attraction. Somehow, he ended up at a amusement park in Long Beach, California, and when they were filming The $6 Million Man, somebody grabbed the arm of the mannequin that was hanging there, and it broke off, and there was a bone inside, and they really realized it was a human body. It took a while. They figured out it was McCurdy, and then he was brought back and buried, finally. So in 1910, through some shenanigans, they moved the capital from here in Guthrie to Oklahoma City. The shenanigans were that they had signed a petition had been filed, and no papers mentioned it for 6 days, which meant the 5-day period to talk about it or discuss it had lapsed. And the people here in Guthrie fought that, but to no avail. They eventually held during a vote on where to move the capital, and Oklahoma City got way more votes, like 3 times what Guthrie got. So right next door, and actually attached to this doorway, is the Carnegie Library, and it was the second Carnegie Library built in Oklahoma, and the oldest in existence in the state today. What a beautiful place. So, coming through the main entrance to the library, you would have come into this beautiful space with a dome up above. It's in all kinds of light. And then there's individual rooms all the way around. The ones we just came through. The main desk right here, just gorgeous. So Carnegie was born in Scotland, came over and was working for a railroad. Eventually he was one of the earlier investors in the Bessemer process for making steel, and became a very, very wealthy man and building with his steel. But in 1901, he sold the company to J.P. Morgan and spent the rest of his life giving his money away and building libraries and doing good works all over the country. And I think this is the first Carnegie Library I've been in. And it's beautiful workmanship here. I think that's going to conclude my visit here to the Territorial Museum with the Carnegie Library next to it. And I am going to get on the road. There's some few other places here that I want to see around Oklahoma City. So, see you later, YouTube. See you down the road.